this opportunity, Lord, to come together and to worship and to study. Please forgive us for our sins and go with us with your Spirit. Pour out your Spirit upon us as we endeavor to unlock these things for our minds. In Jesus' name, amen.
For those of you that have been watching this on the internet, we're no longer keeping the memorization part of the class on the internet. So we've just went through that, and now we're returning to regular thoughts. I have a couple thoughts about yesterday's sermon. Go to Luke 10:18. It's amazing. Patrick was saying this in Sabbath school yesterday, and it's so true. I mean, all of us, I've heard many people say this. You get the logic of this message, and suddenly passages of scripture that you've read many, many times, they have a totally new understanding. You should put them at the end of the world and have the points of references to line them up. And Daniel referred to, he wasn't making a big point, he was just observing how interesting this verse was at the end of his sermon yesterday. Verse 18 says, "And he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven." When does Satan fall from heaven? Okay, the answer there, this is a trick question, is you can go in the Spirit of Prophecy. When he's kicked out of heaven, she applies this verse, and at the cross, she applies this verse. So what does that tell you?
There's more than one application.
Okay, that tells you that, but what else does it tell you?
So same line?
Yeah, same line. When the cross has to be marking
right.
when they were kicked out of heaven at the first rebellion, right? They got to line up. But what's the cross typify? The Sunday law. Okay? So back up to verse 17. Sister Tara Marie, read verse 17 and think in terms of the Sunday law.
And the 70 returned again with joy, saying, Lord, even the devils are subject unto us through the name.
Who returns at the Sunday law?
11th hour workers.
The 11th hour workers. And how many of them return?
70.
70. Okay, so it's got the characteristics that allows you to place it at the Sunday law, because this is where the two sticks are joined, and this is where the number 70 of the Levites are made up. And what happens at that point?
Satan comes down as lightning.
Yeah, fire comes down out of heaven. Verse 13. You missed what?
From Genesis, then the 70 denotes the 11th hour workers, not the Levites.
No, it's the Levites that are made up when the 11th hour workers. It's where the two sticks are joining. The number 70 is marking that the number of the Levites is made up, and the two sticks are joined. Yes?
70 marks the 11th hour workers too.
It marks the point where they join. How does the 70 mark the 11th hour workers?
I thought that's what you said.
Yeah, I might have said that evidently, because two of you are repeating that. I didn't mean it that way.
How did you mean?
I mean the from 9/11 to the Sunday law, the number is being made up. But there's the priests and the Levites. The number of the priests are made up by the midnight cry. The number of the Levites are made up by the Sunday law. And the number for the Levites is the number 70. So when you see the 70 marked at the Sunday law, it's marking that the process of developing the faithful Levites is finished. But it's at that point that the two sticks join. The 11th hour workers are joined at the Sunday law. Okay, so go, as a second witness to this, go to Genesis. What is it? Genesis
3.
No.
Oh, well, that's what he was doing yesterday.
Oh no. I'm just making that observation about that one verse. I'm done with that. I'm going to Jacob coming back to Egypt to join.
That shows the connection. That's what I thought you were saying. The 70 could denote both, because this 70 is the two sticks being
26.
joined, so it shows the connection of the 11th hour workers with that period of time.
Yeah.
So that's all.
It's that number is the Sunday law. The 70 is the Levites. At the Sunday law, the two sticks are joined. And in Genesis 46, let's start in chapter 45, and let's read 2 verses each. And let's start in verse 25, Brother Philip. Genesis 45, verse 25. Read 2 verses, and we'll go into Genesis 46, and we will skip over the genealogy of the sons when we get there, and I'll jump you forward to verse 27 at that point. 25 and 26.
And they went up out of Egypt, and came into the land of Canaan unto Jacob their father, and told him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart fainted, for he believed them not.
And they told him all the words of Joseph, which he had said unto them. And when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough, Joseph my son is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die.
And Israel took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I.
And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation, and I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again, and Joseph shall put his hand upon thee, thine eyes.
And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father and their little ones and their wives in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle and their goods which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him.
His sons and his sons.
Wait a second, Tyler wants to say something.
Is Jacob blind? Or does he have like bad eyesight or something?
I don't know.
Well, twice, or this is the first time, but later, when Joseph puts his hands on his eyes, is that prophetic?
Yeah, he did have bad vision because
Yeah,
he
he
put his
did.
hands
That's
on the
how
wrong
he was able
kids,
to
or at
see
least
them.
Joseph thought he put his hands on them.
Blind to me means can't see a thing. I'm just
Well,
wondering what the point is.
It's a spiritual state. Joseph puts his, and theoretically, at the Sunday law, Joseph would put his hand on his eyes, and he'd be able to see now more clearly.
Okay, so you weren't worried about the...
No, not the
The word
technicality of
blind.
is he blind completely or not. But.
Okay, so read verse 26 and 27, Brother Jim, and then we'll discuss these things.
All the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, which came out of his loins, besides Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66, and the sons of Joseph, which were born him in Egypt, were 2 souls. All souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, were 70.
So when he comes into Egypt, the 70 is marked. But before he heads to Egypt, what does he do? Or before he gets to Egypt is probably the way
He offers a sacrifice at Beersheba.
he goes to Beersheba, and he has, what's Beersheba?
Well, both.
The will of the oath. What's the oath? 25:20. So it's marking the story of Beersheba there. And what's the story of Beersheba in terms of Beersheba and Dan? Joining of the two sticks. The 25:20 is about the 2 sticks. But the vision he has there, what is it?
Tomorrow vision.
Almost.
It's midnight cry.
Well, perhaps.
Or the
But we're talking about the vision. It's the Mara vision, but what is it?
Visions of the night.
It's the first reference to the Mara vision.
Where? On verse 2?
In verse 2.
What, 46:2?
So the first reference puts it in the plural.
First reference puts it in the plural, okay. But what did we determine, or what did we at least suggest the Mara vision was in the last couple of classes? When does it take place?
It's a midnight cry.
Oh, you're going by Jacob, but that's not what we were arguing last time, did we?
Ezekiel 1, we placed it there.
Yeah.
Okay, you place it there, but in terms of the prophetic structure that we're developing, where do we put it?
Midnight.
Midnight, not at the midnight cry.
Visions
Oh,
of
yeah.
midnight.
Halfway
Midnight.
through.
What is that period?
Midnight cries.
It's the binding off period. It's this period that we're dealing with, and the first time it's referenced in the Bible, it's here. It carries all this information about the joining of the two sticks with the number 70. But it seemed to imply that it's the midnight cry.
Yeah.
This being the midnight cry. Is this German for happy Sabbath?
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you pronounce it?
Gesegneten Sabbat. Gesegneten Sabbat.
Gesegneten
Sabbath.
All right. So Jacob puts it at the midnight cry. But I argue that it's right here at the beginning of the binding off period.
Doesn't that sort of play to your point that you were making the other day? That it's one point, but it's the progressive point at the same time?
Plays to that, but also what does it do? I mean, you got that argument that it's one, even though it's a period of time, it's simply one way mark with several characteristics. But what is this?
Binding off.
This
It's the
is-
binding off.
It's also a midnight
Oh,
cry
it's
from Sunday law.
Yeah.
It's a what?
Midnight cry to the Sunday law.
It's a fractal
Factor, yes.
of this. This is 1, 2, 3, and this is 1, 2, 3. So to place Jacob at the midnight cry, it's okay to place Jacob right there too.
Because they're settled in.
In
Right before
46
they get
verse
to the
2 it says, and God spake unto Israel in vision of the night and said, Jacob, Jacob.
In
So
the
you had a
visions.
name change.
46 verse 2.
Isn't that 9/11 though?
No, it wouldn't be.
No, the covert or the number 2 you're marking there. That's 1840.
What are you talking about?
Was that a name change where
He said.
Oh, spake unto Israel. Oh yeah, that was. Is the Lord entering into covenant with anyone here?
Yes.
Anyone here?
Yeah. So there's
Yeah,
no
you're
change.
insisting that the covenant is only 9/11?
No, I'm saying in the 1, 2, 3 there at the midnight or at the covert there. That's 9/11 as well. The
This one?
we have Jacob is 1840, which is
Yes.
9/11.
That's 9/11.
And there's a 1, 2, 3 between 9/11 and the covert.
Yes, I guess. if
So
we're
in a
doing
fractal
this.
sense, there would be.
But that's good because then you can look at all those 1, 2, 3s and see the biggest, then the next one, and I think it's important to start saying, here's our biggest, here's our next one.
So to say that, then there would, in that binding off period, there would be a 1, 2, 3.
Yep, there's.
Yeah, we
That
already
would
know
take it
that.
down to
We
the
already have
smallest.
witnesses to that.
And he's got down there below.
Yep.
But
Oh, going into that little space there?
Yep.
Okay.
what does this story point us to? I don't know how to ask a question introduce the answer, but he's
I'm
got his
gonna introduce a different point. So if you want
Maybe.
to answer your question first, or
No, introduce your point.
yesterday, or not yesterday, but last time we had class, you brought up the point that the covert actually is the third step.
Yeah, this is the third step.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you're marking it as a 2 in that same, in the same level. You're marking it now as a 2 instead of a 3.
No.
No,
It's in the
that's the
bigger
first part.
fractal.
This is the third from here to here at that level.
Right.
This is judgment. This is judgment.
Yeah.
Number 3.
But you're marking it as a 2 now.
No, I'm
No,
not.
at the beginning of it, he is.
Oh, okay. In terms of these
Yeah,
way
that one.
marks.
But
That one
that's the
right there.
bigger
Yeah.
fractal, right?
Yeah, it's
Am I
bigger
wrong?
than this, but
It's
it's not
bigger
as
than
big
the
as this.
No, I.
But yesterday or the other day we were saying 9/11 is 1. The 2 would be somewhere between the covert and.
What's the 2?
Shake.
The shaking.
Visual test.
It's
Yeah.
the visual test over truth and error that goes on in this
And then the
message.
3 would be both of those points.
Yes.
So that's the same level as you have 1, 2, 3 right
And
there.
This 3 would also be the number 4. Because this is the weeping for Tammuz and the bowing down to the sun.
Oh.
Right?
Yes.
But now, pull away from that. When we were dealing with this, whenever we were dealing with it on Thursday, and we were arguing that this is the Mara vision here, what is this telling us? What we were dealing with, let me put it this way, was this history in the time period of the priests. We were using the lines we were dealing with, this binding off period in the time period of the priests. But what's this story about?
11th hour.
It's about this binding off period here. Right? I mean, it's the same characteristics, but this is about the number 70 being marked here. What were we dealing with? What line were we dealing with when we were addressing this? Nehemiah? No?
Addressing what?
Pardon me?
Addressing what? This small binding off period, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it, but we were talking about it here that leads to the midnight cry. I don't remember what particular passage of prophecy we're using to make these points. It doesn't matter at this point.
It was Nehemiah, and on a general level we discussed Nehemiah.
Okay.
So then when you look, oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Sorry. I just want to. Do you have Jacob at both? I can't tell.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Okay.
Jacob, there's a doubling. I'm saying that when we see Jacob in this story, we place it at the midnight cry because that's where the doubling takes place. But I'm arguing because of the Mara, we're understanding the Mara as is here. And what Tyler said initially after we brought this is if we're correct that this period of time is also simply the third way mark, then it actually is here too. But it's expressing a period of time, and in this period of time we know there's a 3-step testing process, but that allows you to put the Jacob here at the beginning of this period of time, and it's simultaneously at one level this same Jacob, the doubling.
So based on what I'm seeing up on the board, the way certain things line up, the only place you won't be allowed to put Jacob is at 9/11. You can put it everywhere else.
Why
Based on
can't
your
you-
1, 2, 3,
you
1, 2,
can
3.
put it also like that.
You cannot put it at 9/11.
Why?
Because it's 9/11 is just the one, unless you can do a 1, 2, 3.
No, okay.
And if so, then you're
That's-
allowing Jacob to go everywhere.
I like that you're willing to get out on a limb so we can consider these things.
9/11 to the second angel.
This,
I was really wondering what you asked. So I'm glad you've asked.
This is the midnight cry, right? And this is the beginning of this period. I'm expanding it out. I'm saying that this is the third/4th. This is the weeping for Tammuz and the bowing down to the sun. This is the binding off period. And where did we get the witnesses that allow us to really lock this in?
Elizabeth.
Yes, but where's maybe, I don't really know But for me, the one
Revelation
that does is Revelation 9.
Okay.
Because it gives you 2 4-year periods at the beginning and the end of the 391 years. And one of the things that we were emphasizing last time is that there is a bowing down that takes place here at the end of the covert, right? Abigail bows. But who else bows here in terms of Revelation 9?
The sovereignty is the Christian power submits to the
in
Islamic power.
1449, the Emperor of Rome bows to these sultans, and in 1840, the last sultan bows to the 4 European powers. But this is 1840, right? And 1840 is 9/11. Okay. So if 9/11 and 1840 is this, then you got Jacob at 9/11.
Wow. So you can put the 2s all the way across the board.
Yeah,
It's the time of the second angel's message.
I remember that once you were really emphasizing that every time that something is repeated twice in the Bible, you place it at 9/11. So the classic example of repeating is at 9/11 actually, from the previous.
Prior to our understanding of the midnight cry.
Prior to understanding the midnight cry, yes, this was the classic.
Would this be more, this Jacob be, since we're saying we could put it at the beginning of the covert there, wouldn't it be more appropriate at the beginning of the covert before the Sunday law?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This story
that's
here
where
to
you're
me
going.
is, no, not where I'm going, but I just said that. This is more placing it right down here. Because this is the joining of the 2 sticks. So, but what it's teaching is that these binding off periods, they're identical. Or, this is the binding off for the priests, this is the binding off for the Levites, and therefore, based upon the testimony of 2, it's got to be the same right down there.
So there's another one from 1989 to 9/11 too, isn't there? 3, the binding off,
There would be.
doubling,
There would
9/11.
be.
And even not the 9/11, we should have a binding up.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right before it.
If you're prepared to demonstrate it, bring it up. Otherwise,
Well, just what you just said. On the
Oh,
testimony of 2.
I could do
a thing
this.
is
Yes,
established.
I realize that. We put that in place before. There should be a binding off
Right there.
right here.
And doubling.
And how can you know that has to take place? What
Because
has
of
already?
the other ones.
Yeah, because of that. You got your witnesses, but how can you know from the prophetic record that this would have had to taken place?
Because there's a group that's passed by.
There's a group that's passed by: the Sanhedrin, Josiah,
There's
Ahab.
Plowing before the 9/11.
Yeah, so there. I don't know exactly what it was, but it had to have taken place.
Just a question. We know that from midnight cry to the Sunday law is this small binding off period, right? And don't we have then another waymark in this small binding off period, because we can place this binding off period in the binding off period? Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone followed you but me.
I didn't quite.
He's saying that that binding off.
This one here, or
No,
this one?
That one is parallel to the one right before
Yes.
at the 9/11. Covert to the midnight cry is the same as midnight cry to the Sunday law, and so now we're putting a binding off period right before the Sunday law within the midnight cry to the Sunday law binding off period. It's a binding off within a binding off.
Yeah.
It's the binding off of the Levites.
No, I mean, if you just place from midnight cry to the Sunday law and bring all this into this
That little
fractal,
place. Yeah.
then you have one more waymark, because you have 3 waymarks there. You have the binding off period of the Levites.
You're saying 1, 2, 3, and then there's got to be one there?
Yeah, but in this fractal, because
He's saying before the midnight cry.
Yeah, that
But the
little
same
space.
thing.
Yeah.
that's
Right here?
yes,
That's scary.
You can go.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I don't see that.
Yeah, you just kicking it.
The logic is there, but and maybe the Lord's wanting to open this up, but I don't think He's taking us to the place of understanding yet, where we can put it in place other than just based upon sanctified logic. that this third message, every time you see a three-step testing process, this third message includes a binding off period.
It's true with fractals, self-repeating at all degrees of
Yeah,
magnification, but what
mathematically-
you're saying is it may not be relevant to the point that we're studying.
We may not have been revealed the information yet to,
You can go.
but the logic is there. Okay, I have 3 hands. Girls first, Sister Brown.
Then, based on this theologically, do we need to decide when we open the Bible and see these lines where they apply most perfectly before we try to fractalize them down? For me, that's what I'm struggling with right now. Where is the perfect application before we start breaking them down? Because applying them online, does that make sense? I don't know how to
The
enunciate it.
perfect pattern.
What you're saying, what you're grappling with, I get, but my concern isn't quite the same as yours. My concern isn't, okay, I read it, I got to figure out whether it's the big picture, the smaller picture, or the smaller picture. My concern is that we get so wrapped up in what we see that we start thinking that it doesn't also apply at the bigger or the smaller level. I think we just have to have an openness that the Lord's opening it to us, figure out what is the emphasis. Like what I'm arguing here is this Jacob, it's got to be this binding off period that leads to the Sunday law because of the number 70, because of the joining of the 2 sticks, because of the Levites. So that type of context says this story about the Mara vision, because I'm saying this is the first reference to the Mara vision, and it's here. But if you remember in Daniel 10, that's what we didn't finish. That's where we were at. It's Daniel 10. We were placing Daniel 10 here and his 3 touches. And we never finished off his 3 touches that go on in this history when he's at the Mara vision here. But whether you remember it or not, or whether we actually emphasized it, I was arguing that Daniel 10, the Mara vision for him, is this binding off period before the midnight cry, not this one before the Sunday law. Because in that vision, after he's touched, he's going to be told something like Gabriel's going to say, I'm going to go forth now to the kings of the Medes and Persia, and when I'm gone forth, then the king of Grecia will come. So he's obviously saying, I got something to do with the United States here before the United Nations. So he's here. We did not finish the 3 touches that we should go back to. So what I'm saying is the context of Daniel 10 places it there. The context of Genesis 46 places this one here. But even if we get wrapped up in his 3 touches here and really get focused in, it doesn't mean that this history here is not also this history.
I agree with the Christ when he came and died on the cross. He was fulfilling the feasts perfectly. Is that not what we've been learning? So there is a type of perfect fulfillment that Christ recognized in his overall ministry. And when we're applying his pattern, I think we need to do the same.
So are you saying which degree of magnification is the antitypical view and the rest should be typical?
I think so. That's what I wanted to say.
The antitypical is the perfect.
Right. And I think we need to define that as we go into
Why?
the studies, because I think without defining it, there's room for error, and that error will affect the message that we're bringing to the people.
I think
So
also it brings in confusion.
Do you keep the main point? Is that what?
No, once you get the main point defined, then you're allowed to start working with it. But when it goes everywhere and from the beginning and gets scattered out, I think that's when the errors will come into this message.
Yeah.
There isn't any error going to come into this message. This is not a human message, and the Lion of the tribe of Judah does not
But
introduce
he's
any
perfectly
errors.
orderly, and
This is where people will stumble over this
Okay.
message, but there isn't any errors coming in this message. Okay, Brother Tyler.
Sort of back on that, the putting the waymark in between the waymark, that. When
This little thing here?
Yeah, that little guy. When you think about it, I think it's not dangerous, but it's
borderline fanatical.
It's borderline fanatical because it's like pointing 2 mirrors at each other.
Yeah.
You can go infinitely.
Yeah,
there would be
that's-
no point where that pattern doesn't stop.
But what happens? What happens with 2 mirrors?
They just keep repeating each other.
Oh, no. They
They
do.
get smaller.
But what
They
happens?
get smaller. Yeah.
They get smaller and?
They curve where you can't
And
see
they
them.
get distance.
Why does that happen, among other things? Light. The more it reflects, the less light it has, and you just can't see it any longer. So, you know, if you want to discuss this little binding out period, thank you, Brother Lawrence, then I'm saying, why don't you explain this little binding out period there for us?
Yeah,
That's
because
what I'm
it's
saying.
turned to get.
And then you could go, if you drew it
crazy.
out, you could just keep drawing those lines because it
You
would
can
keep
go
fulfilling
infinitely,
within itself.
Yeah, so
And it's dangerous.
this is kind of my response to Bronwyn and Jim. Jim seems to be siding with her. That we first
He
have
just
to
enunciated.
identify the antitypical perfect fulfillment. At this point, I think that's the good rule of thumb, but at this point, the reality of it is I think we're just reacting to where the Lord is leading us and what He's opening it up. So if He wants to lead us to a small fractal and open that up, I think we have the privilege of starting there.
Because it gives everybody
Philip's
a
been having
chance
it.
to have it their own message
Philip's after Michael.
on the same thing, on the same message, their own message in the same.
Yeah, if I find this little fractal
Yeah.
and it's so important to me, then
But
this is everything I'm living and breathing for, and I don't want to hear what you're
Yeah,
saying.
you just get
Yeah,
caught up
that's
in
see, that isn't the
mess.
message. That's human nature.
What I was gonna say is complicated, so I'm gonna save it for later.
Yeah, I think returning to Genesis 46, you said that Jacob should be placed. It would have a more perfect fulfillment at the cover before the midnight cry, right? Or at the midnight cry.
He's saying it's a Sunday law.
No, I'm saying that this story is placing it down here.
Or he's placing on the Sunday law.
Why? What do you
Because-
have in Genesis 46?
Because, yeah, I get the point, because basically at the Sunday law the two sticks get joined together and they're traveling to Egypt. And but I was also thinking that the order, the chronology of chapter 46 is that first he is told Jacob, Jacob, then there's the numbering of the 70, and then they reach to Egypt. There's a progressive, and I don't know if that makes...
That's in here. This
So
is where the
that's-
two sticks are being joined.
So at the how do you say it? Midway before the Sunday law, it's Jacob, Jacob. Then there's the numbering, and then they basically reach Egypt at the Sunday law, right?
Yep.
Okay.
But what are we saying about this period? That it's this point.
Yeah, and at the bigger level, it's if you zoom out, it's that point.
I don't know. I'm open for correction on that one.
They're traveling to Goshen, so are we labeling Goshen as the promised land, or they had left Canaan, which we had already labeled as the promised land? What is Goshen defined as?
It's the promised land.
So they're going to heaven. So that's their journey toward
Church
heaven.
triumphant.
Church triumphant, yeah.
I mean, why is Goshen the promised land?
Because it was promised to them, set apart for them.
It's a special land that was given to them. God's people were given lands as they progress through prophetic history. Let's go back and finish what we started, what I forgot about, in Daniel 10, the three touches.
Where?
Daniel 10. Where do we quit reading? With Lawrence or with Jim? Your turn. Then let's start in verse 1 and just move through it quickly until we get to the end, and then go back into the touches and do 3 verses each.
In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing, and had understanding of the vision. In those days I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled.
And in the 4th and 20th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel, then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
Before we go on, Tanya, a couple weeks ago, in a sermon, I said that when the prophets are by the rivers, they're at 9/11. But at the end of 21 days, he's by.
Midnight Cry.
Yeah. So
That's what's been.
is there a river? Well, I'm saying that
It's 9/11.
he's at the beginning of the binding off period, but he's by a river. Is that a contradiction?
No, it's 9/11.
Yeah, 9/11 is there. Yeah, I was thinking this morning just about the development of this message. I can remember when it was opening up, and I'm sure you all remember this, that when we started looking at the Exeter camp meeting and Samuel Snow, and we started seeing the fanaticism from Watertown and Exeter being Watertown, and then Martin Luther's reform movement, we were seeing at the Midnight Cry, water, 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 you know, in a variety of places, but we don't even speak about that anymore.
I know.
It's like, you know,
Well,
we
it's
understand it,
fast.
but we just pass by that. But back when it was being opened up, it was just exciting, and it was a profound revelation. But is there water marked at the Midnight Cry?
Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
So, so anyway, we're saying that he's fasting by the Hiddekel River for 21 days, and he's going to see this Mara vision. Sister Tanya? Oh, you want, wait a second. Michael wants to say something.
Isn't it better if she moves in here where where it can be?
Miriam has got a.
What?
Somebody else can read.
Brown can read.
Okay.
But Michael wants to say something.
I just wanted to say that the very first chapter of Time of the Magazine deals with these two rivers that we've been studying about, and Hiddekel and the Uli, and they're both portraying two different things, but they come at the same period. And rivers are long and continuous, and they flow. So I mean, if it's at 9/11,
It flows through the Midnight Cry.
flows. I don't know. It just seems like it wouldn't just need to be a stagnant place.
So what's the distinction between the Hiddekel and the Uli?
One is showing the events connected with the closed probation, the movements of the man of sin, and the other one showing the need of preparation. One is showing you the calzone vision, one is showing you the mare, which results in the Mara, the appearance of Christ.
Okay, where do they end up?
Out
Sea of
at
glass.
Sea of Glass and the Lake of Fire.
A lake of fire, okay.
Sea of glass.
Sea of glass.
And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. Is that what verse we're in?
Yes.
Verse 9? 7.
No,
For
seven.
the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet heard I the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground.
And behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands.
First touch.
And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand, and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words.
But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days. For yet the vision is for many days. And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground, and I became dumb.
And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of man touched my lips.
Second touch.
Then, sorry, 1 second. Then I opened my mouth and spake and said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength. For how can the servant of this my Lord talk with this my Lord? For as for me, straightway there remained no strength in me, neither is there breath left in me. Then there came again and touched me one like the appearance of a man, and he strengthened me.
Third
There's
touch.
the third.
And said, O man greatly beloved, fear not, peace be unto thee, be strong, yea, be strong. And when he had spoken unto me, I was strengthened, and said, Let my Lord speak, for thou hast strengthened me. Then said he, Knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. And when I am gone forth, lo, the prince of Grecia shall come. But I will show thee that which is noted in the scripture of truth. And there is none that holdeth with me in these things, but Michael your prince. So, I'm arguing that that's the binding off period, those 3 touches that lead to the midnight cry, but it possesses the same characteristics as the Sunday law if you want to argue that, but then you have to grapple with the kings of Medo-Persia and the kings of Grecia. The context of this seems to confirm that this is primarily midnight cry. Everyone see that? So what are the 3 touches?
The 3-step testing process.
3-step testing process. So what's the first one associated with? What's he tell him when he touches him?
He says to understand the words that are spoken to you.
Yeah. But what's first angel's message?
Fear.
Fear God. He references, fear not, Daniel.
Fear not.
Okay, so first angel's message. What's the second?
Babylon is fallen.
What's he going to do in the second?
Touch his lips.
Touch his lips. He's given a message to proclaim. Where do we see that?
Isaiah 6.
Isaiah 6. And then the third.
So Isaiah 6 is jumping into the second step?
Isaiah 6 is dropping into the second step.
If we're going to mark the second step as the touching of the lips, the first one is the knees and the lips.
In Isaiah 6, there must be 3 steps because it's a parallel history, but you're saying that the emphasis in Isaiah 6 is the purification that takes place when the coals touch his lips.
Yeah, to blot out the mouth, the unclean lips.
Where's the 3 steps in Isaiah 6? Easily seen.
Holy, holy, holy.
Verse 3.
Holy, holy, holy.
Okay, so
So Daniel 9 at the end, is it repeating 10 or was 9 before 10? Like Daniel 9:20, it says Gabriel touched him. Daniel 9:21. It's like
well, Daniel 9 is not repeating 10. What do you mean?
Sounds like.
He's
That
saying
it's
that the touch
paralleling
Yeah,
that.
like paralleling, or he's taking 9 and repeating it all to 10 or something.
Where is Daniel 10 by? By what body of water? What is Daniel 9 part of?
7 and 8.
7 and 8. And where's Daniel 8 by?
Uli.
It's by the Uli River. So you can pull them together. So there's no doubt that the prophecy of Daniel 7, 8, and 9 parallels the prophecy of 10, 11, and 12.
I don't know the geography, but does the Uli and Hiddekel rivers, do they flow in together at some point?
So the Tigris and
Yeah,
Euphrates?
right around Baghdad.
Oh, cool.
They come together.
And Mark seen it, where they come together.
Yeah, that was cool.
Michael?
There's something that I've become to understand more. There's a statement from Sister White where she says both in the events, I'm going to chop it up, but it's paraphrased. She says both in the events of how the prophecy was given and the prophecy itself. So when we're looking at this, we see these events of Daniel, and it needs to be distinguished from the prophecy itself. But to get to where Jay's saying is that you have Daniel's doing something and Gabriel's doing something. These are things that our understanding is the the giving of the prophecy, and then there's events that are portrayed.
Both in the giving in the prophecy and in the events portrayed.
Yes,
That's the,
he's
the
so
phrase
shaped.
in there.
So yeah, it's so shaped is in there somewhere. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
So what are you talking about?
I'm saying that we can parallel the giving of the prophecy to each other, and that might be how you can blend the two together. You can say
That
this
might
is
be the key to tie them.
to key to tie them together.
So how many times has Daniel touched Sister Tanya in the book of Daniel? 3?
I think at least 4.
I thought you said 5 last
I
week.
think 5.
Oh, in the book of Daniel, there's 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Michael's arguing that we can use those touches to pull these thoughts together. Where are the other 2 times it's touched? Daniel 9 what?
21, I seen 21.
Where's the 5th one?
I don't know where that one is. But you can use
8:18.
8:18. So let's see if that's it.
Those are the same touches I thought as Daniel 9. How can you like?
We have to line up
It's
the
in a
vision.
different year.
They're 2 different
We have
places.
to line up the vision.
Yeah, but it doesn't
it's
matter
telling
if
the
it's
same
in
story.
a different
It's
year.
telling the same story. I mean,
It's telling the same story.
All the prophets are speaking about the end of the world.
Yes.
Daniel is God's people at the end of the world.
Of course.
So-
No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's not the same. Like physically, literally, it wasn't the same. He was touched in the 3rd year of Cyrus, and he was touched in the 1st year of Darius, and we can bring them together prophetically. I just was making sure that he wasn't saying that it
Was
was
the
the
same.
same, literally.
Okay. So,
And that when the first and the second degree was given?
What?
Repeat the question. So that-
When?
Cyrus? Darius?
was that when the 1st and 2nd decree was given?
The first decree was given in chapter 10 in the 1st year of, well, it's the 3rd year of Cyrus in chapter 10, which is the 1st year of Cyrus, solar.
Anyway,
8:18 is interesting because it's the exact same language as the first time that he's touched in Daniel chapter 10, and it says, "Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep with my face toward the ground, and he touched me and set me upright."
And so where's the one you're talking about?
that's Daniel 8:18.
8:18, but
And
where you're saying it sounds like the
In
same
Daniel
guy.
10, in Daniel 10, the ones we just read, pretty much the same verbiage.
Deep sleep in my face. With my
In
face
Daniel
toward-
8:18, he's going to explain to him the 2520 and the 2300. He's going to explain to him the Mare vision of Daniel 8:14. And here in Daniel 10, he's going to explain what?
the events that are going to befall upon his people.
Which is what? In verse 14 of Daniel 10.
It's the
Chalzone vision.
Yeah, it's the-
Okay, so if you bring them together, he's getting them explained at the same time. That's Daniel 10:1. I had understanding of the Debar and of the Mara. So what's Daniel 9:21? Is it 21? Yeah, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I'd seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. When is the time of the evening oblation?
Is it the 9th hour?
It's the 9th hour. So he's getting touched at the 9th hour. Where are we going to put the 9th hour on there?
You can mark it in a couple places, but one you can mark it right at the covert, or you can mark it at 9/11. You can mark it at both.
But we mark it usually at midnight cry.
Yeah, I thought it would be midnight.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Yeah,
the, it's the cross. It's
I mixed it up.
The 9th
the end of the cross. Yeah.
So the Sunday
It's
long.
the end.
So he's getting touched by context. If you bring them all together, when the Chalzon and Mare vision is being opened up fully to him, where are you going to place it? I know where I would place it. I don't know that I'm prepared to defend that. Those 3 touches are the midnight cry history, the binding off there.
In the study Bible, the Spirit of Prophecy tells us that Michael, after the sword, maybe during or after, or when he comes in to help, one of the chief princes came to help him. Chapter 10, verse 13, it says he was holding the powers in check. So there's another hold that we can place there. And you know the powers is what's going on, but that's what she says. So that would be at the midnight cry.
That would be right here.
Yeah, there's the powers that are being held in check.
And here, there's a restraint.
Yeah, and that proves it. Another one, because we've been looking for
We've
one.
seen restraints more than once, right? This is 1840, isn't it?
Yeah.
Islam's restrained. It's 9/11. There's a restraint.
But is Michael always the one that holds the powers in check? Are we labeling
Yes.
the holder?
Yes, but he uses providential forces to do so, but he always takes credit for it, right?
Michael holds the winds.
Christ. But does he tell the 4 angels to hold the winds?
Yeah, that's
Would they hold the
confusing
winds
to
if
me.
they weren't commanded to do so by him?
No, they
So
weren't
Michael
gonna
holds
let
them
go.
through the power of his angels.
He's in control.
He's in control of providential history. Okay, so this is the 3-step testing process of Daniel. 8 through 12. All the touches we can pull together. It's in here that the Chalzon and Mare vision is being fully open to God's people. Is this how you're understanding it?
And just one point, because it says about the time of the evening oblation, this gives some more evidence that's in this time period.
It's in the binding off period.
Yes.
They have this understanding before the conclusion. And
One of them
when he
says-
touches his lips, it connects us with what? Isaiah. And what is Isaiah's lips touched for?
Live coals take a message.
So he can give a message. Whom shall I send? Send me. So when you pull that in here, it's telling you that God's people in here that are successful in this binding off period are given another prophetic message to test this history.
So 3 is above 9/11, 6 is above the covert, and 9 is above the midnight cry, as far as the hours on this chart.
On this line.
3,
3,
6, 9.
6, 9.
Because about would put you in the middle, so then we're allowing that.
Yeah, Sister
One of
Kathy.
them says that, they get on their hands and knees, and then the other one, it says he lifts them up on his feet. So is that what we're taking as the progression?
He falls back down again at the midnight cry, though. He goes from knees to standing upright to
He
back
goes from
down.
knees to standing up, and then, so I'm wondering, would we take that as the progression where, we know from 9/11
Where's
to
the
the
where's
midnight
the
cry,
big where's the
we're
big
going
picture
up.
of the 3 touches?
9/11, the midnight cry, and the Sunday.
Touch, touch, touch.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Right.
So those people that are going to be successful at this point will be humbled in the dust at 9/11.
Back down, face down.
Yeah, but you're going to get humbled in the dust
Yes.
if you're getting drawn into this here. It's a miracle.
If I were to add in the story of Samuel with the Mara vision, he's actually called 3 times and he doesn't know that it's Christ. And then the 4th time Christ appears to him and says, Samuel, Samuel. Would that also fit in that story?
Yeah, without a doubt, it fits in this story because it's the effect of every vision. That's the easy answer. But where does the 3 calls of Samuel fit into the fact that because what vision is it?
The Mara vision.
It's the same vision as the Mara. And what's happening to Samuel?
He's being chosen as the true prophet.
Yeah, he's
Yeah, and the
representing
other
that
one
the
passed
spirit of
by.
prophecy is restored here.
And that's when it's a change of dispensation also, because that's when Eli gets passed by.
And he's 12 years old when he's given that vision.
So he's 12, this history. He goes through a 3-step testing process, and in the 4th step, he has the Mara vision that establishes the spirit of prophecy. This is probably understood by the 3-4. All right, so I don't know what we're doing here, but we're arguing that this binding off period is the 3rd, and that it precedes this, and it precedes this, and no doubt precedes this. Who's this dealing with?
Priest.
Priests. Who's this dealing with?
Levites.
Okay, 11th hour workers down here. The priests are going to be given a message. And at the very surface level, what's this message going to do? It's going to test this generation. It's the everlasting. It's going to be the message of the everlasting gospel. What's going to be given to the Levites? Same message, and it's going to be the everlasting gospel for this history. So where's the...
It's going to be a message, not necessarily the same message.
Right.
Right, but it will be the everlasting gospel.
Everlasting gospel.
In the sense it's the same.
Pardon me?
It's always,
In the sense it's the same, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
it's always the same because it's the everlasting gospel, but it's to a different people and it's got a different emphasis.
That's right.
But
That's right. It won't be about the charts.
Okay, so this is midnight. I can't get here. This is midnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the midnight cry. Okay, how many people were understanding things at midnight?
Not many.
Wow.
Almost no.
How many?
A room.
I mean, what's the historical record
Just
that gives
big
us some
room.
insight into
A big
this?
room.
Well, we had Ezra with a few men. No, we had Nehemiah with a few men that went to investigate Jerusalem.
Okay, that's not the one I'm looking for. Millerite history.
July
Was just-
21, how many
was
people
just
were
Samuel
Millwright
Snow,
history.
right? Was just Samuel
Just
Snow.
Samuel Snow.
Samuel Snow, okay. But at the Exeter Camp meeting, how many people understood it?
Everyone there.
a lot. 3,000.
Okay, so all I'm saying is that at this midnight and this midnight cry, the persons that wake up is distinctly different. Okay, Josiah or Samuel Snow's representing someone that has awakened here, right? He's getting the message, but here there's a whole group of people awakened. So, Lord willing, tomorrow we'll go into Joel chapter 3 because there's 2 awakenings in Joel chapter 3. And the first awakening is about one guy, pretty much. And the second awakening is all the heathen. Because I think that's in here. Just so the newsletter people know, I don't know where you are in your newsletter, but you need an article. But I told Patrick yesterday, so we're going to try to put some corporate peer pressure on Patrick and simultaneously upon myself. I told him to write up his Sabbath school presentation and include focusing on the Mara vision there in chapter 1 of James. And then I'm going to write a general article on the Mara vision to accompany it. So if anyone has any nice input on those subjects that they want to contribute or direct he or I to, or if they have an article that would uphold that theme, we'll put together a newsletter, Lord willing, on the Mara and the binding off period and start putting that on the public record.
You should solicit online too. If people have Present Truth articles, we take submissions.
Yeah, if people have, if you have Present Truth articles out there online, we take them as submissions, but you've got to know that we read them and edit them, filter them, and may not use them, even if they're good, if they don't fit in. If we don't have a place for them, but we're willing to receive light from any direction it might come. Brother Philip.
Oh, Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning to thank you for this wonderful truth that you are unfolding to us. We thank you for everything. We ask you that you would give us understanding, and you would allow this truth to be settled in our minds, and also give us the disposition and the willingness to continue studying these things and set our feet upon the rock of ages. We ask today protection in accomplishing our daily duties, and please give us strength and faith and hope that we may be faithful children for you. Thank you for everything. In Jesus' name, amen.